It's got better eyesight than me. No kidding.
Everyone, please rise.
I didn't even see that.
We led by Alderman Browning, please, in prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessings upon members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that our decisions are all for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all of our proceedings and keep us faithful to the true trust placed in us by the citizens of our community.
Amen.
President Pro Tem Nash, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask you all to please remain standing for a moment of silence. We did not hold a second meeting in December, and since that time, President Herbert Walker George Bush passed away. We could just reflect on that, please. Thank you. Entertain a motion, please, for the adoption of the minutes held on December 3rd, 2018. Alderwoman Gould, second by Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Vote 7-0.
Public comment general.
Okay, I declare public comment general open this evening. When we didn't hold the second meeting in December, we had members who wanted to give everyone that opportunity and not have it lost. That's why we're holding it this evening. So if anyone would like to address the council on any open issue, simple rule, name and address, please speak clearly into the microphone, and we look forward to hearing from you. Is there anyone who'd like to address the council? And, yes, it's a 3-minute rule. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Bowie.
Good evening. Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. I've addressed an awful lot of councils over the years, and it doesn't seem to sink in on financial matters. Now, this city is $50 million in a hole. Public utilities, $16 million in a hole. We have a debt service each and every year of $5 million. I said it before, city council is a loan shark's delight. Now, in your personal households, if you carry a balance on a credit card each and every month, you are out of your ever-loving mind. Now, the only way to cut back on this is baby steps. Baby steps. But you have got to start cutting back on this debt. Otherwise, your children, my children, grandchildren are going to pay dear. You folks and I are not going to be here 20 years from now. So we do financing for 20 years. Now, I don't understand. You're not the only council I've addressed on this particular issue, and I've been up here 4 or 5 times, but it doesn't seem to sink in. And I don't understand why. One of our former city council presidents said this city doesn't have enough debt. I'd like to take my cane to it. I don't need debt myself, personally. And I don't have debt myself, personally. But I don't go out borrowing money every single time that I need something. I'll either do without or pay for it. Totally pay for it. Now, this city is old enough to do this. If you're going to put a school in for $70 million, no, I don't expect that. But I'd like to have seen the last $2.7 million thing put right into the taxes. We pay for it anyways. So let's start doing baby steps. The old adage still handles. If you're down in a deep old hole, stop digging.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else under open citizen comment? Yes, Mr. Crabb.
Good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. My comments question the purpose of the council's code of ethics. Required by charter, the committee administering these matters delivered a harsh resolution in a situation where a docent opened an inter-office correspondence envelope. In another matter, the committee was blind to millions spent on soirees that were labeled Derbygate. The FBI didn't bother with the ethical conduct for CMEC. Notice the label co-op, and NPU officials focused on the origin of funding for these soirees. Isn't there a problem with this code that elevates inter-office correspondence envelopes above interfering with U.S. mail, yet has loopholes permitting officials with millions spent for entertainment? My handout was selected from a column of topics under ethics from my 1971 Encyclopedia Americana, titled Free Will and Determinism. It might be helpful for replacing this worthless code. CMEC and NPU officials exercised too much free will and were determined to live it up. With budgets in view, a code might be helpful for cutting Norwich expenses. Tax cut is overdue for our taxpayers. Thank you. Remember, tomorrow is Elvis' birthday.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else under general citizen comment? Anyone else under general citizen comment? Sir.
Good evening, Greg Grippo, 209 Boswell Avenue. This is going to speak to a couple of the resolutions that I know will be coming up, but I'm just going to get it all out in one big blurb. Thank you, Norwich. Thank you for my recent property value assessment. My home is now worth 50% less than it was 10 years ago, and my taxes are almost the same. 50% drop. Thank you for giving the owners of the YMCA building $70,000 in their property taxes. Thank you for not doing anything about the YMCA building. Thank you for foreclosing on 29 Boswell Avenue tonight. It's only been on the blight list 3 years. Just like 49 Boswell Avenue, boarded up for 3 years. Thank you, Norwich, for dragging out city-owned blighted property located at 13 Baltic Street for now 4 years. Will 29 Boswell be the same? Thank you, Norwich, for letting the Sanctuary of Love building remain on and off the blight list for, 9, 10 years? Thank you, Norwich, for ignoring the Norwich textile mill right over here, right outside your window, which has been empty for 15, 20 years? Takes up an entire block. Broken windows now boarded up. Somehow it fails to make the blight list. Funny how that works. Selective blindness. Speaking of selective blindness, thank you, Norwich. When I didn't think Norwich, aka NPU, could make the downtown Christmas tree look any worse, they did. When I first saw the lights draped in a traditional manner on top half of the tree, and then the bottom half of the tree with lights going vertical, well, when it was lit, downtown had the first SpongeBob SquarePants jellyfish Christmas tree. I hope resolution number 14 passes. Thank you, Norwich.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else under citizen comment? Second time, anyone else under citizen comment? Third and final time, anyone else under the general citizen comment? Seeing no one else, I declare it closed. And thank you for your comments.
The State of City Address, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming here tonight to the council meeting. This is the state of the city as I see it tonight. We are fortunate to live in a magnificent city rich with history, legacy, and diversity. We have long ago suffered from a change in fate as the economic forces of the world shifted from our favor to other communities across the world. It has taken time for us to recognize that the cures are not simple or quick, and that no singular actions will bring back what we once had here in Norwich. However, as this new year unfolds, we can look back on a long list of successes, a growing economy in the city and region, and great hope for our future. Norwich has more hope. We are assembling comprehensive plans to lead this community back into the limelight of success. It should be noted that change through economic development is a long-term proposition that takes focus, teamwork, and dedication to implement and benefit from. We have a talented team of professionals, passionate and dedicated leadership, a highly flexible and resourceful utility, and a community ready to embrace change. So let's look back and celebrate with pride the amount of private sector investment that is happening here in the city of Norwich. The numerous mill buildings throughout our city have proven to provide great economic gains in the past, and are again finding new uses for the future. In 2018, we saw the Penema Mill in Taftville celebrate a ribbon cutting of the 116 apartments in Phase 1 and groundbreaking of the 121 units in Phase 2, totaling over $60 million of investment, and there is more on the way. For example, the city received a grant to advance Phase 3 for environmental assessment, market study, and a concept plan for the South Mill at Penema for future commercial development. The $200,000 grant from DECD is a public-private partnership. The continued investment of Penema Mills has encouraged further development across Route 97 in Taftville, with the purchase of 3 North 2nd Avenue by One Key Developers. The plans include development of 22,000 square feet. A pharmacy has already committed to occupying a section of that building. The year also has brought new and respectable owner to the Hale Mill in Yantic, who is underway to finish the property as an historic hotel and a $30 million redevelopment. While these mill buildings are not being reused as modern manufacturing facilities, there are key manufacturing investments coming again to Norwich. 2 significant examples are Nordson EFD, formerly known as Blastpack, and a new advanced manufacturing called Nallis Engineering. Both are located in the business park, and combined are bringing over $35 million in investments and 140 jobs over the next few years. We did see 2 significant properties in the business park go dark, but plans are already underway to place new and vibrant users in them. You may recall the tragic fire that destroyed the former Peachtree Apartments in Thamesville in 2008. A new project called West Ledge Apartment Community Development is seeking to build market-rate housing. They are looking to go before the Commission on the City Plan in March. The Norwich Public Utilities played a very active role in promoting development in all 3 developments, Penema, West Ledge Development, and Hale Mill. Their ability to answer important questions about utility needs when a new developer visits our city has and always will be one of the most critical reasons why investors choose the city of Norwich. Recently, a visitor from Ellington was asked why he chose the city of Norwich for his investment. I know this because he sent me an email, and he wanted to share his answer, so I'm sharing it with all of you tonight. His statement was as follows: Norwich came on a preferred list when the governor of Connecticut declared parts of Norwich as opportunity zones eligible for federal capital gains tax benefits for investors. Upon analyzing publicly available documents on the town website and reviewing the plans by the Norwich Community Development Corporation, it was clear to me that the town has an intentional focus on attracting businesses and improving the town. Very few towns have the equivalent of NCDC. I also analyzed the rental returns on almost every town in the state and found it very appealing here in Norwich. Norwich also showed a stability of employment. Recently, NCDC received 3 significant awards, including the 2018 Sorry about that. They received the 2018 Ron Aliano Service Award, the 2018 NAACP Community Service Award, and the 2018 Celebrate Connecticut, Southeastern Connecticut Project of the Year Award. On a side note, NCDC continues the managing of Foundry 66 while hosting the Global City Norwich program. Most notably, the Global City Norwich program recently received a second year of funding through the gracious support of Chelsea Groton Savings Bank, of which we are most grateful for their partnerships here in Norwich. And at this time, it's my wish to personally thank and express my gratitude to Mr. Michael Rao of Chelsea Groton Bank and Mr. Robert Mills of NCDC for the efforts of both these organizations. As one recalls, it was NCDC back in the 60s that began to develop the Norwich Industrial Park. They, however, were not the first private sector organization to assist development here. In the late 1870s, the Norwich Board of Trade, a group of 215 business leaders and companies, shared and pooled their own resources as they started to build structures to house manufacturers here in Norwich. They negotiated the fares on the railroads that came to the city. They negotiated the cost of shipping goods up to the river to our harbor. The same individuals made it possible for King Sealy Thermos to locate here in the city of Norwich, a company that would lead to over 600 jobs for a number of decades here at its peak. They also valued quality of life issues and built the first Norwich Broadway Theater. Looking forward, there is unfinished business, which includes expansion of a downtown bond program to other parts of our city. This remains an important missing piece. Ultimately, we must engage and include the voters in the city of Norwich in major future decisions. Elected officials must never limit the future of the city. We must include the people who elect us, so I'm asking everyone on this council to roll up their sleeves and to please get engaged. It was a year ago I spoke of the expansion of the downtown bond programs across the city to places like Greenville, Taffville, Ockham, Norwichtown, Thamesville, and the West Side. Additionally, we are working with NCDC to develop a full waterfront concept involving the entire harbor. Public-private investment, which has been my point so far, has been the cornerstone of the history of this city. We must continue to walk that path together and not abandon it. We all share a higher obligation to engage the process this year. I'd like to also share with you some highlights of the past year of the finance, treasury, and tax offices of the city, as it is on target to exceed its budget projections for interest revenue by about $250,000. Treasurer Mike Gualtieri is taking advantage of the opportunities in the rising interest rate environment. The Finance Department is assisting the Personal and Pension Board and its consultant to obtain proposals from firms to perform investment advisory services for the city's pensions and other post-employment benefit funds. The city will ensure that it obtains the best value through the RFP process, as it has for a number of other professional services. In 2018, the city issued $8 million of bonds at a very favorable interest rate cost relative to its peers. During the process, Standard & Poor's confirmed for Norwich a AA bond rating. The council approved a bond in July which assists the public schools to integrate human resources and accounting functions with the city. The city expects the project to be operational by December 2019. the city is nearing the end of a reevaluation process for the October 2018 grand list. There's still a lot of work to be done before the grand list is finalized, including hearings and appeals, but our preliminary estimates indicate an increase in the net grand list of approximately $110 million, or 5.9% over the 2017 grand list increase. At the current general fund mill rate of 41 mills, this $110 million would generate an additional $4.5 million in tax revenue. Last year's grand list grew by 2%. Just on an historical note, the gas bond expansion program that the voters supported beginning 8 years ago and is pretty much built out as far as we're going to go at this time, is now producing $813,000 in revenue annually. That is a good return on our investment. The current levy property tax collection percentages are higher than they've been in the past several years. In addition, the collections of delinquent taxes and interest are ahead of budget projections. Some of the improvements are being driven by the acceptance of tax payments at People's United branches during January and July and the hiring of a new collection agency. It's another example, small but still, of an example of public and private partnerships working together. Additional commercial activity includes the stabilization and restoration of the Reed and Hughes in downtown Norwich and a dozen new businesses, and I'll name several: the Royal Punjabi Restaurant, Craftsman Cliffs Coffee Roastery, and Amazing Furniture. Across the city, the Bubbles to Butterfly Swim Academy in Ockham is under construction as we speak, and there is a new dental office on Salem Turnpike. In the near future, a new pharmacy will be located across from Panema Mills, and Cafe Otis in downtown will be opening in the next few months at 80 Broadway across from City Hall. Foundry 66 has now expanded to the second floor and is incubating many more businesses whose growth we expect will prompt relocation within the city. Norwich is courting developers for underutilized vacant property, specifically in downtown, Shipping Street, and the Marina. We also continue to work with FEMA and the Southeastern Council of Governments to be accepted in the community rating system to reduce the cost of flood insurance for Norwich property owners. We dedicated the Ellis Walter Rulli Memorial Park on the east side. This park celebrates the life of a dedicated world-renowned painter. The city has completed the Uncas Leap Master Plan and is moving forward with construction of the off-site parking area and phasing the site developments. The city is utilizing grants from DECD for this purpose. The Hills at Riverview, across from Panema, is continuing to construct more apartments, and their new expansion will also include a clubhouse. Additionally, if you go over to 204 Sturtevant Street, a plaza that for a long time was empty, you'll notice that it's filling up again. The owner himself has invested over $1 million in renovations, and storefronts are becoming a reality. Additional steps will help for the investment in the hiring of an assistant city planner. This individual has been selected and will come on board the beginning of February, allowing us to respond to applicants' needs at a much higher level. The city has also hired a blight enforcement, housing, and code enforcement officer during the last year, and she's working very hard. The city is working with commercial property owners to provide free of charge environmental assessments with grant funds received from the Federal Department of Environmental Protection Agency as well. Now, my office, in coordination with NCDC, the Norwich Public Utilities, and other city department heads, have been participating in negotiations leading to many of these business opportunities, whether they be a new business coming to this town or an expansion, such as Nordson. In closing, I'd like to note that a city that collaborates and works well together will succeed. To that end, I request that this council approve a charter commission to address issues such as a zoning authority and perhaps staggered terms for council members, which will allow for greater experience and knowledge for members serving. In addition, as we schedule council workshops and charrettes concerning water development and possible bond expansion, I'm asking every council member to get heavily involved. Our goal is to have everyone plan out a series of logical and sustainable series of developments between Mohegan Sun, downtown, and Preston Riverwalk. So to my council members, please keep your weekends open, because we have to get to work soon. We're going to be busy. Thank you for listening.
Petitions and communications. Number 1, annual report from the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Motion, please, to accept. Pro Tem Nash, second Alderman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
The City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for January 7th, 2019. Welcome to 2019 and another challenging and exciting year for the city. Superintendent Abby Dolliver has announced her retirement effective June 30th of 2019. The Board of Education has started the process to find a replacement for that position. In addition, there are 3 finalists for the fire chief position who were notified, and second interviews were held on January 3rd. Congratulations to Kathy Davis, our newest firefighter. Her badge pinning ceremony was held on December 11th. Light Up City Hall was a success once again, along with the Cats Me Out ornaments, which were almost sold out. Over 100 children had their photos taken with Santa, and the children and families enjoyed free entertainment throughout the evening. Thank you all to all the sponsors and volunteers that made this event a success. Norwich Human Services helped over 280 kids have a great holiday with the help of generous sponsors. Human Services also received the How Can We Help grant, which is $150,000 per year for 3 years to fund recovery coaches and the city's efforts with the Partnership for Success program to address the opioid epidemic. Norwich Public Schools has supplied the city with new artwork for the students. The artwork is on display in bulletin boards located across from the tax office, outside the council chambers, and in human resources and the city manager's office. My assistant has posted the artwork on Facebook also. The mayor and I met with Senator Olston and State Representative Kevin Ryan and Doug Dubinsky regarding future bonding and revenue for the city from the state. The state has awarded the city with $500,000 of funding towards the new radio project. And again, we thank our state representatives. I attended the board meeting at CCM, including a meeting with Governor-elect Ned Lamont. I also attended the December Southeast Council of Governments and seat meetings. My assistant and I are working with Jim O'Shea of Achievement Unlimited of Connecticut regarding the agenda for the council workshop on February 9th, 2019, where we'll be discussing the progress of last year's goals and objectives. The city has again partnered with People's United Bank locations to accept current real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle taxes during the month of January, in addition to mail or in-person payments at City Hall. A press release has been sent to the newspapers and posted with the additional information. And that is my report for this evening.
Thank you. Alderman Browning.
I just had one question, and I'll ask the city manager, and I'll probably refer to the Corporation Council. One of the speakers referred to 13 Baltic, which has been, I believe, in foreclosure proceedings for years, and I just was concerned because it just is dragging on, and I'd like to know what's actually happening with that property.
2 separate banks actually claimed that they had title to it.
Could you-
We can't hear you.
My understanding is it's supposed to go to judgment sometime in the next 60 days, that the banks are all on the same page at this point, so.
Okay.
Any other? Yes, Alderwoman
Yes,
Filbert.
the city manager, can you tell us the projected date of the new fire chief being on board?
It will be within the next few weeks.
I'm sorry,
Within the next few weeks.
the next few weeks?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
mean, to be
before
on
the
board.
beginning- before the beginning
My
of
goal is
February.
February 1st, but it could be earlier than that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I know that the city manager referenced the fact that the state of Connecticut awarded the city of Norwich $500,000 towards our police radio project, but I personally would like to thank Senator Kathy Austin, who is here tonight, as well as Representative Kevin Ryan and Representative Dubinsky, for their assistance on that. And since they are here, I'd like to thank them properly. Thank you. And also wish them well as the new session begins Wednesday. Oh, really?
Citizen comment on resolutions.
I declare the citizen comment on resolutions open, and I do have a sign-up sheet. Mr. Mark Kalinowski is the first person listed.
Good evening, Mark Kalinowski, 5 DuPont Lane in Norwich. I've been a lifelong resident of Norwich, having served its police department over 20 years, retiring and working in the funeral industry in Norwich for over 15. I've lived here, my kids live here, my grandchildren live here, and we all still work here. I fear that Norwich has fallen asleep. Citizenry, usually the same few, try to help drive change, would have been historically met by minds on your side of the table that have thought they knew better than anyone else how to steer the ship. Norwich is an historic community. I personally feel that the history was once elected, officials knew that they knew best with closed minds to the public. This, in my humble opinion, has led to both voter and activist apathy. It is basic human nature to stop trying after several ideas formulated in hard thought and perhaps researched with facts met with Stonewall effect presented over time. This, however, is the first council in culmination of parties and personalities that I have a feeling of renewed hope with. For that reason, I'm before you today trying yet again, and I thank you for listening. Blight is the opposite of beautification. Fighting blight means you want to beautify. As in Alderman DeLucia's and Alderwoman Burnham's proposed resolution, number 14 today, for a public appearance in Beautification Committee, sense is the common denominator. Anti-blight. Working together with our blight fighters will lead, obviously, to beautification. The common focus everyone seems to have in Norwich is high taxes. A couple of ways to help that financial burden is to increase our tax base. So how can we go about doing that? First, you have to entice people to visit, sample, if you will, what Norwich is and has to offer. A picture is worth 1,000 words. What do the new visitors picture when they come here? Streets lined with massive blue and green garbage cans. Nowhere near the day garbage is scheduled to be picked up. Sidewalks blocked by these behemoth containers limiting access. I still wonder why the snow has to be cleared within a certain number of hours after a snowstorm, but these things can block the sidewalk 365 days a year. Buildings on main throughways allowed to fall into disrepair and stay that way for long periods. Our former Christmas City recognition for a long period met by visitors coming on Route 2 on Washington Street, with 1/3 of the huge Rose's lights being out. Continuing through downtown, probably 30% of those lights strung overhead.
Sorry, sir, that's the 3-minute limit.
Beautiful.
Do you have written comments for us? Thank you. Stacy Mowat Klein.
Hello. I'm Stacy Mowat Klein, Neighborhood Watch Chairperson for the Broad Street area, and I am also talking about the Blight and Communication Community Beautification Committee Resolution number 14. We know our city council...
Excuse me, could you, just for the record, your address, please?
172 Broad Street.
Thank you.
Here in Norwich. We know our city council cares about Norwich because you go to the effort of putting up holiday lights, putting lights up downtown and on the City Hall building and in the NFA Town Green every year. But our Neighborhood Watch wants to let the City Council know that we want them to approve the formation of the Blight and Community Beautification Committee. We further understand that the primary purpose of this committee is to develop a group comprised of representatives of the City Council and members of the public who would work together to address blight-related issues in a coordinated manner. A side-focused benefit of such a committee would be to work on improving quality of life, issues that plague our city and are detrimental to our economic development. In fact, blight is now the major concern of our Neighborhood Watch. Besides those of us who live in Norwich, people drive through the city and see old mattresses, broken furniture, abandoned appliances, junk left out in piles on our sidewalks and in between properties. On many of our streets, trash and recycle bins are overfilled and left on the sidewalks from one week to the next. To get the blight picked up, our Neighborhood Watch will put together multiple addresses, call and/or send emails to our blight director or to our Norwich Public Works to get the blight picked up. Blight is a large part of the problem, but we need to work on making Norwich beautiful and returning it to being the Rose City. There are ways to approach this by coordinating efforts of various organizations. Just look at the work done and being maintained on Rockwell Street across from the DAR house. A median was built, trees and flowers were planted, and it is lovely year-round. Writing grants and coordinating efforts with various organizations to beautify our town, improve our sidewalks, and plant trees and beds of flowers is a great idea. Our new rec director wants to make large planters and plant them place them throughout the town. Our senior citizens have offered to start seedlings and plant flowering beds. Yukon Extension can advise us on smart ways to use our flowers and our plants. Most of our sidewalks are in poor shape. Thank you so much for listening to me, and please, we believe that blight has had a negative impact on the quality of our lives and has had a detrimental effect on the economic development of Norwich. Please approve the Blight and Community Beautification Committee for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Nancy DePietro.
Nancy DePietro, 157 Broad Street, Norwich, Connecticut. Public Appearance Beautification Committee should have an overall support of everyone. Where do I begin for those who have decided to vote against this resolution? How sad that is to me. Discouraging, why? Let me name a few. Liens on houses that have not worked for blight. Bulk waste is horrific. Changes need to be made. Garbage cans are not put back off the sidewalk after collections. Snow removal is happening on many of our sidewalks. Safety concerns as more young students are walking to school. Leaves are not even being raked off of sidewalks. That could be safety issues. Individuals walking in our neighborhoods, going to liquor stores, buying the little nibs, drinking them and throwing the little bottles everywhere, anywhere. Lunch bags from local restaurants. When done with these, they finish eating, throw anywhere where others are. Grass cutting that needs to be 8 1/4 or more before a notice can be sent out. Peeling paint on houses, garbage barrels, recyclables filled with more garbage than recyclables. Homes with dangerous front porches, stone walls breaking apart. Trees and overlapped into streets or other properties, road repair. These are just a few issues that plague our community. For those voting no, can an idea that is so for a resolution to help is worth a try? Does any one person have the answer? No. How do other communities handle blight? Someone had mentioned that other communities have more privately owned homes. Owners live in their houses. Does this mean that we are beyond repair for our community due to the fact we took money from the government for more apartments, which is our tax dollars? Someone had mentioned, why should the money not come back to our community? Really, even in my opinion, it has caused more despair, and even in our school system. It's time for the next generation to see this community be repaired and reborn. There are always be ones that will really need our help, and I am sure we will continue to help. But more apartments, I have concern about this mentality. Another government agency that knocks at our back door for another handout which makes our quality of life go the wrong way. We need to look in another direction, and this resolution could help us to work as a whole community. We need to search out how other communities that are well-kept make our community clean and pleasing to the eye, and this may mean a start for us. Since at one meeting I heard that we need to change the culture. How are we doing that? Send in literature and public utility bills, which renters do not get and more homeowners do not read? Tough decisions face our community, good or bad, and this is a start to focus on our identity, as we have none at this time in Norwich, which is a shame. Please, I'm asking you again to vote yes on the Public Appearance and Beautification Committee. Together, all neighborhoods can benefit as the Neighborhood Watch committees are losing membership. Please rethink your no vote. Blight leads to crime. Blight shows no one cares, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marvin Cerruto.
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. Happy New Year. I'd like to address Resolution 1. I saw some dollar signs on the agenda, and I always like to address dollar signs. Now, the grant that's being proposed here would be a $625,000 grant over the course of 5 years. We'd be obligated to $625,000. That would come to $1.25 million. I just want to know the who, what, when, where, and how on the coordinator. It says other purposes. Just would enjoy seeing the council entertain some questions and some descriptions on exactly what's going to be happening with those funds. Please don't take my questions or comments as an anti-drug-free community individual. I'm 100% in favor of that. I just would like some clarity on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address any of the resolutions? Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Christy Galuli, and I live at 39 East Town Street, and I'm here to support Resolution Number 14, the Public Appearance and Beautification Committee. I first came to Norwich in 5th grade. I've been away and come back, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves, as Mayor Nystrom has suggested tonight, that we all get involved in our community. Number one, get rid of the green and blue barrels that sit in front of downtown businesses 7 days a week. Number two, let's get rid of some of those weeds that are growing up between here and there, including some toxic plants. It's not easy, but it takes commitment to have a beautification develop in our community. We don't have to look very far to find two communities who have been very successful, New London and Mystic. It's been suggested here that we develop boxes and flowers, and there are many seniors like myself who are retired and can't wait to get started. New London has a beautification committee where individuals commit to a certain plot of land and they weed them, they tend them. It's beautiful. A little sign that says New London Beautification Committee turned me on to what this was. I looked them up. They have a website for it, and people gardening their little spots. It can happen here. As you've heard, there are many community organizations. There are many places in Norwich where this has been successful. Of course, the Old Horse watering place on Chelsea Park. At the other end of town, there is that beautiful horse watering thing, down there toward Bishop School. I'm sorry, I'm excited about being here. And in between, all kinds of places. I couldn't wait. So I selected my little place. Across from Otis Library, there's a little triangle piece of dirt. I've weeded it, I've planted flowers, and this spring, daisies, black-eyed Susans, and lilies are coming up. And in doing that, I found out there were two people, the people that drive through and the people that walk through Norwich. They loved it. People told me about the bulbs that will come up in the spring after all the debris is gone. There are 4 places where clematis are growing on fences downtown. The City Hall looks great. There is no reason that the drive-through in Norwich can't look great, and all the people who walk and live downtown. They've spoken to me, they've talked to me, they really want this. They have pride in their community, and they want volunteers. As you said, Mayor, we need to be enthusiastic, we need to do this, and we need to give it a try. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council on resolutions? Mr. Bowie.
Good evening, Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. I live next to a drug addict and a pusher. Contacted the police chief. He's had this bugger arrested 5 times, put in jail. There is an active warrant out for this guy right now. Chief says, call 911. He says, I'll send an officer over immediately. Now, I don't know exactly how we're going to spend this money, but I called our representatives, and I got a bunch of gobbledygook from the state level about how we handle drug addicts. As far as I'm concerned, a drug addict is a drug addict is a drug addict. 5 times he's been cured. 5 times he's come back, he sells it. Recently I had a medical condition. I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when it starts. There's a little red car pulls up in front, brings him his stuff. After that, car after car after car pulls through here. I think we can do something if this grant is actually used in the right manner. But just sending these guys to jail isn't doing it. I just settled a claim today by a drug addict pusher that did a slip and fall on me. He has a sheet this long, and he is currently serving 5 years in prison on drugs. We have got to do something about this drug thing because it's all over the city. It's not just my neighborhood, it's very, very restricted. We all know each other up and down the street, but I've been putting up with this for 4 or 5 years now. My son and I are working out on the back porch. Lunchtime we break. This guy comes over and steals my Sawzall.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address resolutions on the agenda? Yes, Mr. Crabb.
Again, good evening. David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I'll address resolutions number 1, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now, for resolution 1, there are 150 of these agencies in Connecticut. What's the deadline for receiving these community dollars, and how do we ensure that the community dollars come in over these 5 years? Remember, another radio station in Connecticut mentioned that Connecticut is among the top 10 states in the country with residents departing because of the excessive debt of the state, which another radio station happened to mention that we are number 49 of 50 as far as debt goes, and apparently number 50 is Illinois, because the station reported that Illinois is trying to have the bankruptcy rules for states changed so they could declare bankruptcy. So Connecticut is in dire straits. So we're talking big bucks here, and we don't know where this money is coming from. The community is is scheduled to arrive in time to do some good. So is this what they call I forgot the name of the little bugger that Red Robin or something like that. Anyway, for resolutions 11, 12, and 13, what is the Norwich Council's portfolio made up of these days? Well, how large is that portfolio? We just keep adding more and more foreclosures. Why? For the last resolution, number 14, this seems to be two resolutions under the same number. I'll only address the one that addresses the overlay district. Why aren't all the committees on the city's agenda required to report twice a year? Let's have some uniformity among what goes on in Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the council on resolutions? Yes, please.
Hi, Sophia LeWitt from 3 Rockwell Terrace. I moved here from Manhattan 2 years ago. My husband and I looked at many houses and ultimately bought a beautiful Victorian in a great neighborhood. What I thought were neighbors renovating their houses. One had its siding half completed, one had its front porch propped up by 2x4s, turned out to be empty and are in the same condition as they were 2 years ago or worse. These are zombie houses. They aren't alive or dead. They have no owner on site and are barely maintained aside from basic landscaping and snow removal. There are many reasons why buildings downtown and homes in our neighborhoods are blighted. They are neglected by absentee owners. They are rehab projects that ran out of money. They have ownership disputes and they are houses in foreclosure limbo. Whatever the cause, this blight ruins the quality of life for neighbors, threatens public safety, and hurts property values. Norwich needs to do more to protect its historic buildings and neighborhoods, arguably its greatest asset, from deteriorating to the point that they are too costly to be saved. Responsible civic measures taken by other municipalities include a point system to levy fines against properties needing repairs. Others have adopted a strategy requiring lenders to register, secure, and maintain homes during the foreclosure process. Several cities are considering vacancy taxes on empty commercial properties to encourage owners to lease, sell, or develop their real estate. But Norwich's problem might be best addressed with an approach beyond punishment. There is little incentive for responsible homeowners and landlords to make improvements. Not only is it expensive to rehab old buildings, but then you are charged permit fees, your assessment is raised, and your property taxes are increased. We should reward, with tax credits, investors who are working responsibly to reposition blighted properties. We should reinstitute Norwich's tradition of recognition for historic preservation projects. We should encourage neighborhood associations and support this beautification committee so those who love our city can unite in an effort to improve the quality of life for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to address the resolutions on the agenda this evening? Anyone else like to address the resolutions on the agenda? Third and final time, is there anyone else who would like to address the resolutions on the agenda? Seeing no one else, I declare it closed, and thank you all for sharing.
New business. Number 1, relative to city manager signing for a drug-free community grant.
Motion, please, to bring this forward for discussion. Alderwoman Burnham, second, President Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Philbrick.
What I am going to share with you this evening is very difficult for me. Some of you may find it offensive, disgusting, appalling, but the truth needs to be told. There is an epidemic in this country of opioids. As I sit here before you, a 75-year-old grandma, I am going through opiate withdrawal. In April, I fell and fractured my femur. From April 23rd to the end of August, I was fed a constant diet of oxycodone by doctors, nurses, nursing home staff. I accept some responsibility for taking the medication, but I also thought that these were the professionals. They knew what they were doing. They were helping me with my pain. But what they didn't realize was that they were creating a pain much, much worse. On August 30th, I remember April 23rd is when I started this. On August 30th, I went to the emergency room because I was feeling weird, is the only way I can describe it. I was transported by ambulance. The emergency room doctor told me I was going through opiate withdrawal. He said, my suggestion to you would be ordinarily to go to a 30-day treatment program, to start on methadone. He said, but unfortunately, there are no beds available for old people. Go home and do it cold turkey. Now, I don't know if any of you in this room, if you've ever tried to quit smoking, had problems with alcohol or substance abuse. I can tell you that from that day to this day, there have been times when I wished and thought that I was going to die. It's horrible. I have and will continue to have permanent neurological, physical, and emotional problems because of the drugs. The drugs that were prescribed without anything, the doctor, you'd call and ask for a refill. They wouldn't even ask you, how's your pain today, Mrs. Philbrick? And he'd write a script for 84 oxycodone. 84 at a time. This is an epidemic. And Mr. Bowe, with all due respect, I have known you for years. And yes, I am a drug addict because I have taken drugs and I have become addicted. But what you have to understand is that the person sitting next to you, your doctor, your lawyer, your teacher, your son, your daughter, your grandmother, could be a drug addict. I was told by a member of the fire department that they had a call of a 66-year-old grandma who OD'd on oxycodone and didn't survive. We created this problem. Pharmacies, the doctors, we created it, and now we have to fix it. It's as important as the AIDS epidemic. It's as important as veterans at the rate of 22 a day committing suicide. This is a problem. So to spend $125,000 a year, and with Mr. Cerruto, part of this money will be to pay for the drug counselor, the rest, $63,000. The rest, I wish Leanne was here so I could ask her, but I certainly hope it's for outreach. But one of my biggest issues, and I am going to support this 100%, but it's what upsets me is it says reduce substance abuse among youth and over time reduce substance abuse among adults. We need to do this across the board. We cannot say it's just for the youth because I can't tell you. I know some of you are going to think less of me after this. But you have to know. You have to know, and you have to be aware. I'm one of the lucky ones. I survived. I could have died. And people are dying every day. So instead of spending money on other things, we need to address this, and we need to address this now. So I thank you for listening to me. As I said, it's a very personal thing, but I'm the type of person that I feel that by sharing personal experiences, it puts a name and a face to things, and you can then say, I remember that woman, that old lady who said, you know what, I had a drug addiction, and I'm battling it. So I ask the council to support this, and I ask you in the community to not judge people solely on the fact that they might have an addiction to drug or alcohol. It's an illness. It's an illness, pure and simple. So as I said, it's very personal. It's very difficult for me to say this. I get better every day, but it's the hardest thing in my life that I have ever gone through. So please be aware and talk to people. Don't be embarrassed to ask people, is there something that I can do for you? Because otherwise, you might find yourself attending their funeral. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Yes, Alderman Burnham.
So, thank you, Alderwoman Philbrick, for sharing. Just to turn gears a little bit, we are not spending any money. Anything will be in kind, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Is this in conjunction with the United Way pilot and the Partnership for Success and the program that we saw the presentation from the Norwich Heroin Task Force?
Yes, that's correct.
Just so the public knows, I met with the president of the United Way of Connecticut in a different capacity, and all he could talk about was all the successes and how wonderful this program is in Norwich. Norwich is a pilot program that they hope to replicate throughout the entire state, so that we could be the model to have a greater impact for everyone, as Alderwoman Philbrick said. So, Norwich is doing a great job addressing this problem. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Seeing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Number 2, relative to a reappointment to the Inland Wetlands, Watercourses, and Conservation Commission.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? Seeing none, for the edification of the public, the gentleman being appointed here is Brandon Hyde. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Number 3, relative to an alternate appointment to the Ethics Commission.
Motion, please, bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, second. Pro Tem Nash, is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Burnham.
I just have a couple of logistical questions for the chair. It's taken me a year to come up with these questions, but just catching on. So, for the public's knowledge, when someone applies to be part of a committee or a commission, what is the process that they go through?
Alderwoman Gould.
If they're applying for a position,
Yeah.
we set up an interview. They are interviewed by the committee. The committee makes a recommendation, and then the recommendation goes to the council.
Okay. And when somebody applies, what do they physically do to apply?
There's an application that they fill out online.
Okay. Because I'm just curious, and are people notified whether or not they've been chosen for an interview, whether they fit the criteria, what have you?
Well, if they don't meet the criteria, they're notified of that beforehand.
Okay, because I just have a couple of people that have come to me and said they have heard nothing, and they've applied for things multiple times. So how do we address that?
Well, you could give me their names, and I'll take a look into where the glitch is.
Okay. Who notifies them that they've been selected for interview or not?
The interviews are set up through the mayor's office.
Okay. And are the applications forwarded to you?
To all the members of the committee.
And all the members, I'm just trying to get process here, just so everybody knows, whoever might want to apply, so you know what's happening. So you as the committee chooses who gets to be interviewed?
So it's everybody who's applied as long as they meet the criteria.
Okay. And if they don't meet the criteria, they're notified by the mayor's office that they have not been chosen?
No, usually I make the phone call and tell them that they may have unpaid taxes, and therefore they can't sit. They are not registered to vote in the city of Norwich, or we have to be careful, we can't have a majority on a commission of Republicans or Democrats, so they may not fit that criteria. Or there are others that are more specific, and if they don't meet that criteria, I let them know ahead of time. If they're an employee of the city of Norwich, they can't serve on certain boards and commissions.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
And if I may add to that, at the end of like tonight's meeting, people who are appointed by our action will receive a letter stating so. Individuals who applied for that same position but that were not selected will also receive a letter explaining to them that someone else was chosen. We try to keep the communication going fully. Is there further questions of this resolution? If not, all those in favor? It's unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Number 4, relative to an appointment to the Community Development Advisory Committee.
Motion, please, to bring it forward. Pro Tem Nash, second. Alderman DeLucia. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, the gentleman being appointed is Mr. Mark Marcy. All those in favor? That's unanimous. It's 7-0.
Number 5, relative to an appointment to the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Again, a motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Gould, second. Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, once again, the gentleman seeking to serve in this capacity is again Mr. Mark Marcy. All those in favor? It's unanimous. 7-0.
Number 6, relative to an appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Motion, please, to bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, second. Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none. Yes, Alderwoman Browning, please.
Just simply an endorsement of Robert Phoenix. He's very knowledgeable. He did a lot of work down in Florida in this area professionally.
Yep, thank you. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor? It's unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Number 7, relative to a reappointment to the Historic District Commission.
Yes, Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Appointment of Mr. Richard Guideback. Unanimous, the vote is 7-0.
Number 8, relative to reappointments to the Mohegan Park Improvement and Development Advisory Committee.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Gould, second. Pro Tem Nash, is there discussion? Yes, Alderman Browning.
I wasn't on the appointment committee, but I'd like to endorse all these members. I participate in the committee with them. They all show up, participate, and are a positive influence.
Thank you very much for that. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the people being reappointed are Samantha Ventura, Judith Magagno, Beryl Fishbone, and Rebecca Malucci. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Number 9, relative to an appointment as a regular member of the Board of Assessment Appeals.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Gould and Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, The person being appointed is Jean M. Becker, excuse me. All those in favor? It's unanimous, 7-0.
Number 10, relative to holding the St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 3rd, 2019.
Motion, please. Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Gould, is there a discussion?
Yes, please attend this event.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous, 7-0.
Number 11, relative to listing 43 through 45 Fountain Street, 21 and 23 Whitaker Avenue, and 29 Boswell Avenue.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Gould, second. Pro Tem Nash, is there discussion? Yes, Alderman Browning.
I would like to amend this resolution to remove 21 Whitaker Avenue for reasons I'll explain in discussion.
Is there a second to the amendment? Alderman Burnham, the floor is yours.
Of these properties, 21 still has a resident. Actually, I understand from talking to Corporation Council, 2 people living there. I'd prefer not listing it until the formal eviction process is finished. Listing involves just things such as showing the property, and it's kind of hard to walk through someone's property if they don't want to give you permission. I think it should also finish, the legal process should play out. I understand the eviction process has just begun on this. This is a part of a parcel of, I believe, 6 properties. This is the one I had a reservation with, previously expressed to that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Yes, Alderman Burnham.
I think we're all supportive of listing properties, but I think, allowing the legal process to play out and recognizing that there are still occupants in the building, I just think that might be the more prudent approach with this and just holding off until the eviction process is completed.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Gould.
Do we know when the eviction process will be completed on this property?
The occupants have said they'll be out by the end of January, but they had also promised to be out by the end of December. So we started a eviction action on the individual who is not an owner of the property and an ejectment action on the other. It may be that the 2 parcels both have houses or structures on them at least, but they're side by side there. I don't know that the listing agreement means they have to start showing it immediately, but the current residents have lived there for a while, and so it may be longer than usual to get them out, but I would imagine that you're probably talking 60 to 90 days at the outside. However, I don't know if it makes sense to list 23 without 21, given that they're adjoining properties. So,
If I may, one question. Is there also an eviction for 23 going on as well, or just 21?
23 is vacant.
Okay,
Empty.
just wanted to check.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Yes, Alderwoman
So in
Gould.
essence, we could list 21 and letting the real estate agent know that it is occupied at this time and they may not be able to show it for a couple of weeks.
That's correct.
Is there further comment on the amendment offered? If not, all those in favor of the amendment to strike number 21? All those opposed? The amendment passes 4-3. On the resolution as amended, is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0.
Number 12, relative to authorizing the sale of 9 Cordell Road.
Motion, please, bring it forward. Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Filbert.
Yes, I think it's important that the people understand that some of these properties, and usually Alderwoman Gould is very good about explaining it, but for some reason I think she's not feeling well this evening. This is unimproved and underdeveloped. It's almost like a little piece of, a sliver of land next to a piece of property that you might own. So when we take these, it's our hope that the abutters will pick up the piece of property. This is not a house that's been left vacant, so this would be for someone to add on to their existing property.
Thank you. That is correct. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0.
Number 13, relative to authorizing the sale of 7D Laurel Hill Avenue.
Motion, please bring it forward. Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? Yes,
This
Alderwoman Philbrick.
is the same situation as the previous piece of land.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Number 14, relative to establishing a public appearance and beautification committee.
Motion, please, to bring it forward. Alderman DeLucia, second Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Alderman DeLucia?
I actually have several comments on this resolution. So it's important for everybody to understand that that the purpose here, the intent, is to create an advisory committee to the City Council, right? To move us in a direction where people who have an emotional attachment to an issue can come together and talk and research and brainstorm and then come to the council with ideas, as we heard one speaker talk tonight, about come to the council with ideas of what other communities are doing to help address the issues that were so clearly articulated from the podium tonight. And I think we would all agree that historically it's been citizen volunteer groups that have proven to improve and enhance the attractiveness and the public perception of a community more than what a city has the resources to do on its own using its budget. And in this time of stretched resources, citizen volunteer groups can execute tasks that the city staff just does not have the time or the financial resources to complete, especially when it comes to conducting the research that we're talking about on successes of other communities like Norwich and pursuing grants and donations for specific beautification projects that would otherwise be beyond our ability to fund through our budget. And I believe that while our city department's employees consistently exceed expectations, most of the work that they do is reactive. In a support role, the members of this committee could facilitate the organization of new neighborhood groups, existing neighborhood groups, and build relationships that foster a more proactive or a more proactive approach to community beautification. We've heard there are so many small groups in this city, whether it's through the senior center, through the rec department, through small neighborhood groups that I'm just now becoming, well, through this process, have been becoming more aware of. And it is the hope that we will have a core group that represents the entire city, that all of these smaller groups, and brings to the table that sharing of ideas that will help advise us of what we can do and what hurdles we can remove. I believe that this committee could and would assist this council in making and supporting recommendations regarding blight-related issues and community beautification initiatives. Those are separate things, but they are polar opposites, as Mr. Kalinowski said, and you cannot address one without the other. I will tell you that since the news of this initiative reached the public, I have received no less than 3 inquiries from other community groups, including real estate brokers and other professionals looking to connect their groups with this committee if adopted. Excuse me. This indicates to me that there are several other grassroots groups looking for an outlet for their desire to improve the appearance of the city. This initiative provides a clearinghouse committee to connect those grassroots groups to each other. Additionally, the committee will have the capacity to engage and include and coordinate with all local neighborhood watch groups throughout the city. I believe that this initiative provides the opportunity for this city council to fulfill its stated role in the plan of conservation and development, to support greater volunteerism and engage the public in what we all agree needs to be addressed. And I implore my colleagues on the council to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Pro Tem Nash.
When I first heard about the resolution, I was a little concerned because my biggest concern was we were going to add another layer of bureaucracy to an already bloated city government, and the difficulty we have to get people to volunteer for commissions and committees and to attend things, and it made me nervous. But then the more I thought about it, you know, I don't work in Norwich, so I work in our what I always call our rival city of New London, and I'm always defending Norwich and always telling everyone that Norwich is, you know, and I don't care if the press prints it or not, but Norwich is way better than New London, and there's so much more here, and this is a great community. And I'm a transplant. I'm not originally from here, but I've made Connecticut my home for over 33 years. I am also a retired police officer and worked many, many, many nights with Officer Kalinowski on different sides of town. So the more I learned about it, and I did get reached out by several people in our community, sending me letters and emails and calling me on the phone. I spent an hour and a half with a gentleman the Sunday discussing it. And one of the things I'm glad I heard Alderman DeLucia mention was that the committee would kind of facilitate sort of like the same thing our neighborhood watches do, so that we're not having just one committee to try to make Norwich beautiful. We have one community trying to help numerous community activist groups. Like, if anyone hasn't been down by Rockwell, please take a ride down there and look at what that group has done over there. The Huntington Way or Lane or something is another area where there's a committee in there making that neighborhood very beautiful as well. So I was about a 60-40 split coming here tonight, where I wasn't really sure how I wanted to go with it. But you know, I reread some of the letters I had that were emailed to me, and I really feel that I want Norwich to be beautiful. I want Norwich to be the community I know it can be, and what I see. You know, I don't look through rose glasses, but when I do drive around the city and I say how beautiful that house is, or how great that neighborhood is, and how nice downtown can be if we put our heads to it. And what I like about this committee now is it puts the onus on the citizens now. When I was a DARE officer, I used to tell kids, if you know you don't like where you live in your neighborhood, do something about it. Go out and pick up the garbage in the front of your house, whether you put it there or not. You know, I own a home, or I did own a home, and if I went outside and there was a trash in my front yard, I didn't leave it there saying, well, I didn't put it there, let somebody else get it. I picked it up, I cleaned it up, I swept my street, my sidewalk, my driveway, you know, much to my neighbor's humor. But now we're going to put it on you guys. The only thing I would like to do is make an amendment to the resolution from the 10 individuals to a 7-member committee instead. I just think that 10's pushing a lot. I mean, you have 7 people sitting up here, and we can barely get together twice a month, and we don't always agree on things. So I think that having 10 people might be a little stretch. I mean, if the committee grows over the years, we can always amend it and increase the membership, but I think I would like to I'm making a motion that we amend the resolution to 7 members, and other than that, I would, ask the council to support the resolution as well, but I make an amendment that we change it from 10 to 7.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Alderman DeLucia, second. Is there discussion on the motion to amend? Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I'm not opposed to the 7-member grouping. I just want to be clear about 2 things. First is the lesser of the 2, that the actual language in the resolution says up to 10 members. So really, while I appreciate and respect Alderman Nash's efforts and his thoughts, we could hold it to 7 and still have the wiggle room to increase it if we needed to. But that's really, arguing over the small stuff, and I don't want to do that. The bigger issue with whatever the number is going to be, and let's say this amendment passes and the number is set at 7. It's important to me that the council and the community understands that the people who volunteer for this committee will, apply online, submit applications. They will be interviewed by the appoint-reappoint committee, and which we will then make a recommendation to the council to see who actually gets appointed, okay, as we heard Alderwoman Gould outline earlier. But it's important that it be a cross-section of members of the community from throughout the city. The only way, I believe, and personal belief, that the only way that this is going to be truly successful is if we are engaging people from all of our neighborhoods in the city of Norwich. So from every petal of the rose, someone must come. So I've just felt that, not that I'm not asking to change the amendment, I just want to make that point crystal clear. This needs to be a citywide representation of our entire community in order to be successful.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Nash.
I would absolutely agree with you that it needs to be a good cross-section, but as well, a committee like this should go out into the community and make sure that there are other committees involved, another group of people involved. So if we happen to get 3 people from one particular side of town, this committee should be charged with that this is a Norwich committee and not just a blank neighborhood or a blank village committee. It's all of Norwich, and should be actively seeking the support of the Mohegan Advisory Board, the Monuments Committee, the Public Safety Committee, and move around and make sure that everyone's involved and inclusive. So I agree 100%.
Agreed.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? Unanimous. The resolution as amended. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman Burnham.
So I had the privilege of overseeing a program like this in Hartford, where I was responsible for a blight and beautification initiative where we engaged all of the neighborhood revitalization zones under the mayor's homeownership initiative when Hartford has its Rising Star campaign. It was a real diverse program where we tapped into in-kind resources as well as grant funding. So the possibilities are really endless in terms of community engagement. I've seen firsthand what it can do. When people take pride in their neighborhoods, they take ownership of their neighborhoods, and they take ownership of each other. We were able to get a capital workforce program grant where we hired youth for over the summer to help participate in monitor. First we cataloged blight, we monitored blight, and we provided reports supplemental to the departments that were so far stretched. that it helped them to prioritize their work. And then we also engage with neighborhood revitalization zones about strategies for beautification, like many of the strategies that were brought up here. And I just did a perfunctory search before I got here to see if the grants that we utilized were still available, and I saw that Hartford just in July got $25,000 from Cities of Service Love Your Block, so that they could disperse that money for the neighborhoods to engage in this effort. Keep America Beautiful has numerous toolkits and grants and different things to engage communities that it's just, you can just turn the page and it's ready to go. It's shovel ready, as they like to say. So I think this is a great opportunity. As like I said, I've seen firsthand how this can really impact the community. And we have Pro Tem Nash mentioned how we're so stretched for volunteers. We're adding a layer of bureaucracy, but I think we have a whole committee here ready to go, plus from other areas of the city. That would be great. So we're so lucky that we have people ready to engage. And for something that's at no cost to the city, this committee would be accountable to us. They can't take action without our approval, so we have oversight there. And not only that, it's our responsibility as the council, as this is laid out in our plan of conservation and development, that the onus is on us to ensure that we proceed with trying to take some action. So let's do it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I just have a couple questions, if I may, to whoever wants to join in. The concept of pursuing grants, how would that be administered? Is it the intent and hope that, and I'll give an example, the Emancipation Bell Proclamation project that was administered, the Comptroller's Office assisted and was the recipient for grants and or donations that were raised for that project. Are you looking for something similar, just so that there's some knowledge ahead of time in pursuing a grant? You know, who does the grant go to? The city? I'm assuming yes, but please.
Yes, I would say that that would be accurate. Again, with the I shouldn't say my, because this bears some explanation. This isn't mine. Right? This certainly was not my bright idea. It's a bright idea, but it certainly wasn't mine. This was something that was brought to me and hashed out over months. And in those discussions, my initial thoughts to your question, Mr. Mayor, was that if we were to adopt this committee and their research brought them to some sort of grant application, that as an advisory committee they would come to us and ask us how to proceed with pursuing the grant. And then we would be the body that, I hate to say it this way, but dictates the terms or lays out the procedure. And again, based on the advice that we get from council and from staff. So if they have an idea for, let's take that hypothetical. If this committee comes to us, hey, there's this grant available, this is the process, this is what it would do for us, we think it works. If the council agrees at the time that it's a good idea, and then looks at the method by which the grant has to be applied for, and then we would take advice from staff as to how the city should proceed. But that this committee would not act autonomously in any fiscal way.
All right, thank you. Just for clarity. Is there further comment or question? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution as amended? It's unanimous. Vote 7-0. Business, please.
New business ordinance number 1, an ordinance authorizing the appointment of an individual member to the Board of Assessment Appeals pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 9-199, small c.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to raise this for a public hearing and to schedule said public hearing and waive its full read. Alderman Nash, second. Alderwoman Gould. 22nd. For members of council and the public, the next council meeting is actually the 22nd of January, on Tuesday evening, because of a holiday. That would be the requested for schedule for public hearing on that date at 7:30. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. 7-0.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the acquisition or disposition of real estate or interest in real estate when publicly regarding the proposed acquisition or disposition would cause a likelihood of an increased price to acquire and a diminished price to dispose of the property, and to renew feasibility evaluations and reports made for the City of Norwich regarding such property. City Manager John Salamone, Comptroller Josh Pothier, Director of Planning and Neighborhood Services Deanna Rhodes, and Corporate Counsel Michael E. Driscoll shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council.
Is there a second, please? Nash, all those in favor? 319, please.